Hey there. Have you ever felt that kind of nudge, that quiet whisper inside that asks, is this is this really it?
Hmm.
The comfortable routine, the stable job maybe, the weekend plans that feel, well, more like obligation sometimes than real excitement.
Yeah.
It's a good life, sure, by a lot of measures,
Mhm.
but sometimes there's this like deeper feeling, isn't there? Like your inner self is kind of wondering if you're living the full adventure you were meant for.
It's a really powerful feeling that this sense of being settled, maybe even successful on paper, but still having this underlying hum of unfulfilled potential.
Right.
And, we often look at people who are just completely lost in their work, artists, scientists, entrepreneurs, whatever. Maybe we think, wow, they're kind of intense, bit centric maybe.
Yeah.
But deep down, there's often this quiet admiration, maybe even a little envy for how deeply they're living, pursuing something really meaningful, even when it's inconvenient.
And today, we're actually going to take a deep dive into the life of someone who absolutely leaned into that inconvenience. This isn't like a story about some child prodigy who knew their path from day one.
No, not at all.
This is about someone pretty remarkable who found their true calling well into adulthood. And it just shows it is genuinely never too late to make a change, to pivot. So get ready for maybe an unexpected revelation that might just inspire you to rethink your own schedule.
Okay, so our story starts way back. Turin, Italy, 1776. Amedeo Avogadro was born.
Right.
And he's born into an aristocratic family. His father was a big deal, a prominent lawyer, a senator. So, there's a certain path expected.
And Amedeo, he followed that path, right?
Yeah.
At least at the start.
Yeah.
He sounds incredibly bright, a philosophy degree by what, 13?
13.
And then a doctorate in ecclesiastical law, that's church law, right?
That's right. Canon law.
So clearly super smart and totally on track for this very traditional, very prestigious career.
Yeah.
Law, government, following right in his dad's footsteps. It seemed like a perfect fit, huh?
Exactly. It looked like the sensible, approved life, stability, prestige, all that. But, and here's where it gets interesting, while he's doing all this lawyer stuff publicly,
Yeah.
privately, he was just devouring books on maths, physics, philosophy. And around 1800, 1803, he was even doing his own experiments with his brother on electricity, salt solutions, stuff like that.
Wow. So secret science life.
Kind of. It's this great image, right? Outwardly, the respectable lawyer, but inwardly, he's just buzzing with scientific curiosity.
So that hidden curiosity, it must have been building up for years, because then what happened?
Well, then, at age 33, this is 1809, Amedeo Avogadro does something pretty stunning for the time.
Okay.
He just walks away. He abandons his successful legal practice.
No way. At 33, after building all that up, I mean, can you imagine the family reaction?
Right. But he did it. And instead, he takes a job as a professor of natural philosophy, basically physics and math, at a college in a town called Vercelli.
That's a massive pivot, especially back then.
Totally radical. Society absolutely expected him to be, settled in his fancy law career. But he chose this completely different path. Started diving deep into how gases behave, atomic theory, physical chemistry, all these emerging fields.
So he just quietly followed his curiosity.
Quietly but consistently, he just pursued this fascination with how the basic bits of matter work. He literally left the courtrooms for chalkboards and, well, thinking really hard about stuff.
That's exactly the kind of story we're talking about. Finding that calling later on, past your 20s, and actually acting on it.
Yeah.
Just because the questions themselves excited him.
Precisely. Driven purely by that intellectual spark.
So, okay, this huge switch, this deep dive into science,
Yeah.
what did it lead to? What was his big scientific breakthrough?
Right. So fast forward just a couple of years to 1811. He's 35 now, and he publishes his big idea, his famous hypothesis.
Okay, the hypothesis.
Yeah, imagine him, this former lawyer, completely immersed in the invisible world of gases. And he proposes this. Equal volumes of all gases, if they're at the same temperature and pressure, actually contain the same number of molecules.
Okay, molecules. Like the smallest units of something. Right. Like water is H euro molecules, oxygen is O.
Exactly. The smallest independent particle of a substance.
So why was that such a big deal back then? What problem did that solve?
Well, it solved a really confusing puzzle. Other scientists, like Joseph Gay-Lussac, had noticed something weird but consistent. Gases reacted in these really simple volume ratios.
Like how?
Okay, so for example, exactly 2 liters of hydrogen gas would react with exactly 1 liter of oxygen gas. And they'd make exactly 2 liters of gaseous water, like steam. Always these simple whole numbers, 2 to 1 to 2.
Huh. That is weird. Why such neat ratios?
Nobody could really explain why, but Avogadro, he saw it. He connected the dots. He realized that elements like the hydrogen and oxygen gases didn't just exist as single, lonely atoms floating around, which was kind of the common idea from guys like John Dalton.
Right.
Avogadro proposed they could actually exist as molecules made of two or more atoms joined together, what we now call diatomic molecules, HO.
Oh, okay. So hydrogen gas isn't just H, it's H here. Oxygen isn't just O, it's O.
Precisely. That was the revolutionary thought for elements. He said, okay, what if you have hydrogen molecules reacting with oxygen molecules?
So I'm going to try this. If you have like 2 packets of H molecules reacting with 1 packet of other molecules.
Yeah.
They rearrange to form 2 packets of water molecules.
Yeah.
H. So the number of packets, the particles, goes from 3 down to 2, which explains why the volume changes in that simple 2-to-1 makes 2 ratio.
You got it. That's exactly it. The number of independent particles changes in that simple ratio, and since equal volumes have equal numbers of particles, the volumes change in the same simple ratio. It was such an elegant way to explain Gay-Lussac's observations.
Wow. That's really clever. It ties it all together.
It really was. This idea that elements themselves could be multi-atom molecules was way ahead of its time.
That sounds absolutely huge for chemistry. Like a real game changer. You'd think bells would be ringing, right? Instant celebration.
You would absolutely think so. But no, not even close.
What?
Avogadro's work, his brilliant hypothesis, was almost completely ignored for like half a century.
50 years? Are you serious? How is that even possible after figuring that out?
I know, it's hard to believe. But there were a few reasons. For one, he published in journals that weren't, well, widely read, kind of obscure.
Okay.
And crucially, his ideas clashed pretty hard with the theories of the really big names at the time, like John Dalton and Jöns Jacob Berzelius. Their ideas about atoms were dominant, even if Avogadro's explained things better.
So, scientific politics, kind of.
Yeah.
Established figures resisting a new idea.
Yeah, partly that. Plus, Italy wasn't really the center of the scientific world then, especially for chemistry. And Avogadro himself, well, he was apparently quite a private, reserved kind of guy. Didn't travel much, didn't network internationally to push his ideas. He even hit political trouble. He lost his professorship for about 10 years, starting in 1823, because he supported a liberal uprising against the monarchy.
Oh, wow. So he had professional setbacks, too.
He did, yeah. Though he did get reinstated later in 1833. But the point is, despite the, sheer elegance of his idea and despite these setbacks, he just kept working, kept teaching when he could, kept publishing his idea.
For decades. Without the applause, without the recognition, facing academic neglect, political trouble, but just kept going. Mostly alone.
Exactly. It's just fascinating, isn't it, that conviction, the truth he saw mattered more to him than getting famous or being immediately approved of.
Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting, especially for you listening.
This is the real aha moment, I think. Avogadro himself, he never saw his work get the credit it deserved during his lifetime. Never.
So when did it happen?
The breakthrough, the widespread acceptance, it came after he died, posthumously. In 1860, that was 4 years after Avogadro passed away.
Right.
Another Italian chemist, Stanislao Cannizzaro, basically championed Avogadro's hypothesis at this big, important scientific conference, and that presentation finally cleared up years of confusion in chemistry. People finally got it.
So Cannizzaro kind of rescued his idea.
In a way, yeah. He showed how powerful it was. And then the ultimate recognition, that name we hear in science class, Avogadro's number.
Yeah, he didn't coin that, did he?
Nope. It was named much later, in 1909, by a French physicist, Jean Perrin, decades after Avogadro was gone. Perrin actually won a Nobel Prize partly for work related to determining this number experimentally.
And that number is...
It's huge, right?
Oh, unbelievably huge. It's about 6.022 times 10 to the power of 23. So a 6 followed by 23 zeros. It's called Avogadro's number.
And that number represents... It's the number of things, atoms, molecules, ions, whatever basic particle you're counting in 1 mole of any substance.
Okay, and a mole. Just help us out here.
Think of it like a chemist's dozen. You know how a dozen always means 12, whether it's eggs or donuts?
Yeah.
A mole always means Avogadro's number of particles. It's just a standard unit for counting enormous quantities of tiny things.
How enormous.
Yeah.
Give us a sense of scale.
Okay, get this. If you could count molecules at a rate of, say, 10 every single second, and you never stopped,
Okay.
it would take you over 30 trillion years just to count the water molecules in one single tiny drop of water. That's the kind of scale Avogadro's number deals with.
Wow, 30 trillion years. That's mind-boggling.
Right. And think about this. Amedeo Avogadro, the guy whose insight made understanding all this possible, the absolute foundation for so much chemistry, he never knew his own number.
He worked in obscurity. His ideas were overlooked for most of his life, but he kept going.
He absolutely did. He chose to follow that calling, that deep scientific question, even when it came late, even when it wasn't convenient, even when almost no one was listening.
His story is just, it's such a powerful illustration, isn't it? That real impact, real meaning, it often comes from just persistently engaging with what fascinates you, not necessarily from getting instant pats on the back or, fame and fortune.
Exactly. It shows that chasing your calling might not bring immediate comfort or applause, but it brings this deep, enduring satisfaction, and sometimes a legacy that echoes long after you're gone.
And Avogadro wasn't like the only one, right? History has others who bloomed late or faced huge resistance.
Oh, absolutely. Think about Vincent van Gogh. Started painting seriously in his late 20s, right? Sold, one painting while he was alive, died poor, yet his work, it defines entire eras of art now.
Yeah. Or who else?
Isaac Newton made some of his most massive discoveries, calculus, optics, gravity, during a time when Cambridge University was closed because of the plague. A forced career gap, you could say, where he just went deep into his own questions.
Or Emily Dickinson, writing almost 1,800 poems in near isolation, mostly unpublished in her lifetime.
Exactly. Or Ramanujan, the clerk from India whose mathematical insights just floored the academics at Cambridge. These people listen to that inner voice, often against the grain, often later in life than expected.
These stories, like Avogadro's, they really tell us something, don't they? That maybe our souls crave that deep work, that focus, that meaningful engagement, not just the endless scrolling and dopamine hits we get distracted by.
It really feels like that. Our souls want to grapple with something real, something bigger than just fleeting pleasures or keeping up appearances.
So what does this mean for you listening? Maybe you're in your late 20s, your 30s, feeling that same kind of tug Avogadro must have felt, that pull towards something.
Well, first, maybe start telling yourself it's too late. Avogadro made his pivot at 33. Van Gogh started painting seriously around 27. Age can just be an excuse the ego uses.
Right. And stop pretending maybe that being busy all the time is noble. Sometimes it's just hiding a fear of doing the deeper, harder thing.
That discomfort you feel when thinking about starting something new, something that challenges your comfy routine, that's not a stop sign. That's the training ground.
Right.
It feels dangerous to your illusions, maybe to your laziness.
But it might just save your spirit.
Exactly. It can save your soul from just stagnating.
Okay, so let's make this practical. An anti-settling plan, maybe, inspired by Avogadro and the others.
Yeah.
What are the steps?
Step 1. Ask yourself honestly, what's one thing you could imagine doing, learning about, creative, for hours and hours without getting bored? What truly sparks your curiosity? Forget practicalities for a moment. Just what pulls you?
Find that thing. Okay, then what?
Then commit to it. Just 1 hour a day. Non-negotiable. Like Avogadro doing his secret experiments. Carve out that space. Protect it fiercely. No excuse.
1 hour. Seems doable. What else?
Actively cut down the noise. Less mindless scrolling, less digital distraction. Create the mental quiet you need for focus, like Avogadro needed for his deep thought.
Yeah, that's a big one.
And prioritize that inner whisper. Start listening more to your soul's desires than to society's or even your family's expectations of you.
Find role models too, right? Like Avogadro. People who show it can be done, even when it's inconvenient, even without instant rewards.
Yes. And accept that discomfort is part of it. It's not failure, it's growth. It's you stretching.
And maybe you don't have to, burn all the bridges immediately. You don't have to quit your day job tomorrow.
Not at all. Avogadro was still a lawyer while he was building his scientific foundation. You can build your calling steadily, patiently, 1 hour at a time, alongside your current life if you need to.
It's about starting that deep dive, even if it's just dipping a toe in at first.
Precisely. Remember, living this way, living deeply, it will challenge your comfort zone. It might demand you change habits. It might feel inconvenient.
But it's about living awake, not numb.
It's about saving your soul.
Okay, so here's a final thought to leave you with. A provocative one, maybe. You will die.
We all will. It's the one certainty.
So the real question is, how are you going to choose to live between now and then? Are you going to opt for comfortably numb, safe, maybe unnoticed?
Or
will you choose to be maybe exhausted sometimes, but fulfilled, spiritually awake, leaving behind something, even just an insight or a connection that ripples out? Avogadro chose the latter path. What will you choose?
your comfort, It might actually be suffocating your spirit, your denial of that inner calling. It's a kind of betrayal. Life isn't meant to be a single, straight, predictable road.
Yeah.
It's this wild, twisting, sometimes inconvenient, but sacred pilgrimage toward who you could become. You get this one chance right here, right now. Don't waste it being half asleep.
Avogadro's story. It's just such a powerful reminder, isn't it, that our greatest contributions, our deepest fulfillment can bloom in really unexpected seasons of life. And sometimes their biggest impact happens long after we're gone.
May your current comfort maybe become just intolerable enough. And may your spirit awaken to the deep work that is truly calling you. Go live dangerously alive.
If this deep dive resonated with you, if it sparked maybe your own little aha moment, please do consider liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and maybe hitting that notification bell. It really helps us bring more of these stories and insights your way.
Yeah, it does.
Till next time, keep diving deep.